So Bungie has revealed more and more and more about Marathon in the last couple months, and after looking at everything we know so far from gameplay mechanics, the shell system, the movement, I and others have noticed something interesting. There's a game out there that you could be playing right now that could prepare you for dropping into Marathon and having a significant advantage. No, it's not Destiny or Tarkov or Arc Raiders. In fact, it's not even an extraction shooter. If you play Apex Legends, then I think you're going to have a significant advantage in this game. I'm not talking about just surface level similarities. I mean the core skills from gunplay, movement, team coordination. They go almost directly from Apex to Marathon, and I do not believe that is an accident. So today, we're breaking down exactly what transfers and why. We'll look at the gameplay loop, combat mechanics, movement systems, team dynamics, and by the end of this video, you'll see why your time in Apex is probably the best preparation you could have for Bungie's next shooter. Please keep in mind, if you enjoy the video or agree with what I'm saying, to leave a like. It greatly helps me out in the algorithm. And I am also trying to hit 25,000 subs this year. That would be absolutely massive for me and the channel, a huge milestone and accomplishment. And you can help me out by just hitting the sub button, and if you end up hating everything I upload later, you can just unsubscribe. No hard feelings. And with that, let's get into the video. So for those unfamiliar, which I actually think that there's quite a few people who don't know about Marathon, I've actually been playing Apex a lot recently, and I'll bring up Marathon when people are using their mics in downtime. And more than once, I've had people say they don't even know what Marathon is, which is just kind of wild to me. But if you're watching this video and you're coming from Apex, and you don't know what Marathon is, it is Bungie's upcoming PvPvE extraction shooter. And if you don't know how those games work, you drop in on a map that's shared either solo or with a squad, with the goal to scavenge loot, fight other players and AI enemies, and then extract at a designated point. The loot you collect only becomes permanent if you successfully extract. If you die before you get out, you lose everything from that run. But if you make it out, that gear will carry over to your next match. And instead of a battle royale shrinking circle, it seems that Marathon uses progressive difficulty zones. So as you move deeper into the map, the enemies will get tougher, but the loot gets better, with the ultimate destination in the game to be the Marathon ship in orbit, which that's where the best rewards are going to be. Now what this does is it creates a natural player convergence, similar to how Apex's ring forces everyone into smaller areas. These high value loot locations will become contested zones. Bungie has described it as tense exploration that breaks into fast-paced PvP combat. If you've played Apex's ranked mode or any other extraction style game, the loop will feel familiar. You are constantly making these risk versus reward decisions about when to engage and when to avoid fights and when to get out with what you have. I know a lot of people are probably like, I don't have the time to learn Apex. I don't like dropping into a map and then immediately dying and then just having to start over without getting any sense of feeling better at the game. And to that, I will say there are new game modes in Apex that are perfect for you, including the wildcard mode, where it's a smaller version of the Battle Royale and map, with only 10 teams on the map at once, I believe. But the difference is, if you die, and you still have one member of your squad alive, you have a respawn timer where you can come back into the match. So you're learning maps, you're learning weapons, you're learning characters, without the stress of not having to die like in the regular Battle Royale mode. Let's talk about one of the most important aspects of these games, and that's how the shooting actually feels. Bungie has a strong track record here. If you've played Halo or Destiny, you know their weapons have this weight and feedback where mostly every weapon has a shot that feels impactful. Early impressions of Marathon specifically mention that Gunplay feels unmatched and has that Bungie edge, and multiple sources compare the combat speed directly to Apex Legends. It's not like a slower extraction shooter like Tarkov. So what does this mean practically? I think if you're comfortable with Apex's shooting mechanics, you're already most of the way there. Hit scan weapons, recoil management, headshot prioritization, these fundamentals carry over directly. The difference is there's just higher stakes in Marathon. So when you're playing Apex and you're getting that experience, it becomes more valuable. You're already training yourself to perform under pressure. You know how to track moving targets, control spray patterns in chaotic fights, and make accurate shots while repositioning. I think that the combat in Marathon will eventually get to be fast and responsive and not so much slow and methodical because of things like implants and shells. You'll be able to upgrade your characters to potentially prioritize these fast movements. And I think that that plays directly into an Apex player's strengths. The movement in Apex is sophisticated, I think. From slide jumping and bunny hopping, zip lines, character-specific abilities like a grapple or having Valkyrie's jets. To me, it's a high skill ceiling system. Others might disagree, but I'm an old man. I do think that Marathon will have a similar complexity with one key difference right now, and that's the heat management system, where excessive movement will generate heat, and if you spam your abilities too much, you're gonna overheat, which will force a cooldown. There's been a lot of feedback on this, and I think that they've changed it a little bit, but like I said, you can upgrade movement capabilities through implants and cores. You can turn a double jump into a triple jump. There are implants that will increase base movement speed and jump height and heat capacity. I think once you're fully upgraded with these different aspects of your shell, Marathon will reach an Apex level of mobility. Now, some classes start with enhanced movement by default, similar to Apex. And the specific movement techniques that you're learning in Apex will translate directly. Sliding into cover, maintaining momentum, using verticality. I think all these things will be extremely relevant in Marathon. Different classes will offer different movement tools. They'll have a grapple hook for rapid repositioning, a riot shield that you can pull up for cover. And if you understand how to use movement and tacticals in Apex, you're gonna adapt very quickly. So this is where comparisons will get really direct in this video. Apex has legends with unique tactical and ultimate abilities, and Marathon has runner shells, which are essentially classes with specific ability kits. Characters in Marathon have a drone that can steal loot, and there's a grapple hook. I think of Crypto and Pathfinder from Apex. Another shell has remote revivals and healing drones, and that's Lifeline. Recon can scan enemies through walls. Sounds like Bloodhound and Crypto. I think the pattern is clear. If you understand Legend composition in Apex, you're already gonna understand Marathon's team dynamics. You can have a player that controls spacing and absorbing damage. One provides information and scouting, and one can handle support or flanking. The specific abilities are different, but the roles are the same. By combining all these things together, you're gonna know when it's worth pushing a knocked player versus healing or repositioning. You already are gonna understand how to coordinate around these tactical decisions. The terminology will change, but the strategic thinking is basically identical. I think about how Apex really revolutionized squad communication with its ping system. You can effectively coordinate with random people without a voice chat. Now, Marathon hasn't detailed their communication systems completely yet, but the game is clearly built around squad coordination, and in an extraction shooter, communication becomes even more critical. Callouts about enemy positions, loot location, threats that directly impact whether you successfully extract or not. These stakes are higher because failure means losing your gear. Squad tactics will translate directly. Flanking and cross-firing, split pushes, baiting, these will all work in the same way. And both Apex and Marathon reward coordinated teamwork. One just ends in a victory and the other ends in you getting better loot. In Apex, map knowledge is fundamental. You need to know loot spawn location, rotation paths, high ground position, timing windows. I think that Marathon will also demand that same kind of spatial awareness. There are abandoned facilities, wilderness areas, outposts. Each zone contains loot and threats, both AI and enemy players. Your instincts for checking corners and using verticality and listening for audio cues will all transfer from Apex to Marathon. Another little bit of a similarity is the fact that Marathon will include these faction contracts where you can complete objectives in the game for bonuses, and that kind of reminds me of Apex's challenges or events where You complete a specific task and you'll get a reward. But again, if you're good at reading Apex maps and predicting enemy movement, those skills are going to apply directly to Marathon. As with most games, if you want to get better at something, you have to put in the time and effort. You can't just go blindly into a game, just spawn in and keep doing the same thing over and over again without trying to learn why you're losing. So that's also very important. In Apex, players are used to building loadouts on the fly. You adapt to what you find, you'll prioritize attachments, and you can basically make do with what's available to you. Now, Marathon expands on that concept significantly. Yes, you'll be able to bring in gear, but you'll also be able to scavenge just a ton of mods and implants and stuff on the map to change your loadout. Every weapon can be deeply customized, not just with attachments, but so many other things that go into the game. Now, if you're playing Apex, you know that the learning curve will apply, so understanding which modifications benefit which weapons and managing different ammo types, being ready to adapt your role based on what you find. Now, players will develop favorites just like in Apex, and you'll optimize your builds around them. Now let's get into where Marathon diverges most significantly from Apex. In Apex, you're playing for wins or for rank or seasonal rewards, but your in-match loot always resets. Marathon makes every decision affect long-term progression. Dying doesn't just cost you a match, it wipes everything you collected and went in with. Although I do think that Bungie has made this less punishing than some of those hardcore extraction shooters. Like, even if you lose a run, you get to keep the runner's base abilities and starter kit. You're not just starting from absolute zero. And I think that that's perfect for Apex players. You're already accustomed to high-pressure situations, final rings, third parties, and you've trained your decision-making under stress. But you know your character's abilities and how they move. And like I said before, you're actively training yourself to make decisions while under stress. Should you take this fight? Should you push for better loot? Should you go ahead and rotate? Your Apex experience means you've developed the composure to perform when it matters. You understand when to be aggressive and when to be conservative. The mental framework will translate directly. You just have to adjust your thought process just a little bit to make sure that you keep your gear. Now, yes, Marathon is not Apex Legends. It's an extraction shooter, different objectives, systems, but the core skills are remarkably similar. Gunplay fundamentals, tracking, recoil control, headshots, they transfer, movement mechanics, sliding, jumping, mobility for positional advantage. That's the same muscle memory. Then you have team dynamics, your role selection, coordination, resource sharing. Both games share that same strategic thinking. Map awareness and tactical decision making will apply. Marathon just adds the complexity of extraction pressure, losing your gear, but these are layers on top of a foundation that Apex players have already built. So every match you play in Apex is relevant practice. It will all apply in my opinion, and when Marathon launches on March 5th, you won't be starting from scratch. The core competencies are gonna already be there. And to me, that's the advantage of having a strong foundation in a similar game. The specifics will change, but the fundamentals will remain. So that's it for the video. That's the breakdown. If you found it useful, leave a like, subscribe for more Marathon content as we get closer to launch. Let me know in the comments. Are you planning to play Marathon? What class looks the most interesting to you? Do you play Apex already? I read every comment and I try to respond to all of them. Just be respectful. And I just want to say thanks for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.